So we're going to get going. Hey everyone, my name is Daniel Pope. I'm the Executive Director of the Bellevue 2030 District. We're excited to be hosting our first member meeting here, and we've got some great introductions to share. Hopefully we'll be joined by more of our members as we continue along, but we're going to record this just in case folks want to catch up later. Can everyone see my screen where it says 2024 Spring Member Meeting?
Yeah.
Great. All right. Well, then jumping in, we're going to get going, and then we're going to be joined by our friends from Puget Sound Energy in the city of Bellevue to talk about some exciting programs that they have available to help folks make their buildings more efficient and also try and make our grid more resilient as well. So the agenda for today is we're going to be welcoming our newest staff member. We're going to share a brief state of the district and some upcoming events. We're going to provide some program updates and update you all on grant-funded projects that we're engaging with. We're also going to be, like I said, hosting our friends from Puget Sound Energy and from the city of Bellevue to talk about the Clean Buildings Incentive Program. And then after that, if folks want to stick around, we'll have an open forum if we haven't burned through all our time yet. So with that, we're going to jump in by welcoming our new person, Lydia Bezikos. Lydia.
Hi, everyone. As Daniel shared, I am Lydia Bezikos, our new Sustainability Program Coordinator for the district's work in Bellevue. Many of you have heard from me already, but if you haven't, please feel free to reach out. I will drop a link in the chat in just a moment that will allow you to schedule meetings with me if anyone would like as well. But to introduce myself, I'm a graduate from the University of Denver with a background in environmental science and sustainability. I come with previous experience in community engagement and education after working for 2 years as a programming lead at the university's Center for Sustainability. I recently relocated here to the Pacific Northwest, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm deeply excited about my new role here at the 2030 District and this amazing opportunity to work closely with others in the sustainable building space to help Bellevue achieve its goal of a cleaner future. I look forward to really starting our work together, and thank you all so much for the warm welcome.
Great, and yeah, please reach out to Lydia as you like. She's going to be our primary point person for City of Bellevue, and yeah, we're really excited to have her on board. All right, I think most of the folks here are pretty familiar with the 2030 district, so I'm going to skim through this portion, but just for posterity. Those that don't, and for those that don't know, Bellevue is the newest of our 2030 districts in our network of 24 2030 districts across North America. Unfortunately, it's not going to be the newest for long because we're going to be having additional 2030 districts coming online in Pennsylvania probably later this year. So being the new kid on the block was a short-lived experience for us, but we're excited to welcome new 2030 districts as they come online. Currently, the 2030 districts are representing 580 million square feet of commercial, multifamily, municipal real estate. And this whole movement was born out of Architecture 2030's goals of a 50% reduction in energy, water, and transportation emissions by the year 2030. And I don't think I'm talking to anybody on this call right now, but for anybody watching in the future, if you are interested in learning more, please let us know. So we'd love to share more about what the 2030 district is and how we get things done. The Bellevue 2030 district, to share a little bit about where we're at, is since last year, our membership has grown to have 96 buildings committed, representing 10.6 million square feet of real estate in the city of Bellevue. On this map, you can see our target areas within Bellevue, and of course, any large commercial, multifamily, municipal buildings that are interested are more than willing to have them participate in the program. But our areas of focus are these green areas, the downtown core, Eastgate, Factoria, Wilburson. This is the Bell Red, or the core areas of focus for the Bellevue 2030 district. I also want to take a second to thank our sponsors, Local Real Estate, the City of Bellevue, and Puget Sound Energy. We went 2 for 3 on attendance here today, so we're really excited about that. But these are the folks that are helping to fund our work and make sure that all the great programming that we're producing is available to our members. I also want to take a second to welcome our newest members. So in the last couple of months, these are the folks who've joined the Bellevue 2030 district. There's DPR Construction. Monica's represented here today. A Plug and Play Electrical Solutions, DCI Engineers, UMC, Monarch Landscape Companies, Velocity, and Cochrane Willard Lundin. So these are some really great folks who are helping property owners achieve building sustainability, and we're really excited to have them join us in this work. For a full list of our property owner and professional stakeholder members, you can visit the Bellevue 2030 District website. And with that, I think I'm going to hand it over to Riley.
That spotlight there. All righty. I think this section, or at least the first part of this, is going to be mostly applicable to folks listening on the recording. But just two things that I want to go over quickly on our programming side. So the Seattle 2030 District has previously given reports out to our building members in Seattle. We are now trying to bring that work over to Bellevue for the Bellevue 2030 District. What this means is we need to get access to our building members' buildings in Energy Star Portfolio Manager. I know nobody on the call here will have seen the emails from our intern, Elliot Wilson. But for those watching the recording, please be on the lookout if you have not received one already, for emails from Elliot asking for access to your Energy Star Portfolio Manager account so that we can really start getting these building performance reports up and running. I think we're going to go ahead and skip the poll that we have for this because I don't know that it's super relevant to the group here, but for those who are watching the recording, we will send out some information on having you all share with us what your familiarity is with Energy Star Portfolio Manager, and any ways that we at this Bellevue 2030 District can help get that moving, and bring everybody into kind of understanding of how to manage your building's energy usage through this program. The second thing that I wanted to bring up on the programming side. So we are going to be hosting a policy roundtable later this summer. And this is an opportunity to get all of our members together on both sides of the lake to talk a bit more about the different policies that are coming online, the gaps that exist in meeting those policies, and what kind of resources might be useful for folks to be able to access in the future. The goal of this roundtable is to be able to produce a helpful report that will be able to guide our municipal and state officials in creating workable policy solutions to help folks meet their goals, whatever they may be, whether you are a professional stakeholder or a property stakeholder. So all are absolutely welcome for this. We do have a short poll for this. We are in the early stages of planning this roundtable, and we would just love to hear a little bit more from those of you in the room about any topic areas that you think would be helpful to cover. And this could be, you know, super specific technical information that you may be encountering while you are working with clients, or it can be really broad policy topics that you want to learn more about and you think others in the community might want to learn more about too. Daniel, can you launch that poll?
It is launched.
It is launched.
See a policy roundtable topics poll. Take a minute to read through that, and if you have any responses, please throw them in the poll. We'll give everyone just a few minutes to do that.
Do we control the slides? And for any questions that you have on this, moving forward, Lydia is really going to be leading our work on the Bellevue side. So please feel free to reach out to elbazikos at 2030districts.org. Slightly different formatting than the usual 2030 district email handle. So make sure that you get that one right, but please feel free to shoot any ideas or information her way as we are coordinating this and all of our programming on the Bellevue side. For future meetings, she will be leading these sections as well. So get familiar with that email. All right. The other things that I wanted to cover just quickly, we have two big grant funded projects that are applicable to our members in the Bellevue 2030 district. The first is funded by King County Waterworks to explore green stormwater infrastructure for low income housing. This opportunity will include focus groups with both low-income housing providers and tenants, as well as service providers who work in the GSI areas to understand better the feasibility, the limitations, what barriers exist in developing GSI on low-income housing sites. So this is an opportunity for all of you that are in the room and watching this discussion to be able to engage. And we will let you know a little bit more about these focus groups as we begin planning them. Should be late 2024, early 2025. But this is going to be a really great project that's going to culminate in a toolkit for housing providers to understand better how they can incorporate GSI at their facilities, wherever they may be, in their journey toward making their buildings more sustainable and protecting our watersheds. The other project that we have is a project funded through the Department of Ecology and the EPA to help disseminate some resources that the Department of Ecology hosts on their websites regarding PCBs and building materials and how to properly identify and remediate and dispose of said chemicals. PCBs are, for those of you who don't know, a really, really nasty chemical that was used in many of our building materials between, most prominently between 1950 and 1980. But they're kind of in buildings built outside of those periods as well. And this is a statewide effort that we are working on to help engage our different building use types to help protect people, help protect water, and help protect salmon from PCBs. So again, keep a lookout for these education events as they're coming up. Our first ones should be in late 2024, and all are welcome to join us for that. And I will hand it back to Daniel.
All right, so we've got some great upcoming events that we're excited to be sharing with folks. On June 12th at 12 p.m., we're going to be doing a smart building controls webinar. You can come learn all about different ways that building controls can help make buildings more efficient and help increase security for your building as well. On June 26th, with our friends at Rudstad at the Spring District, we're going to be hosting the Bellevue Summer Social, which is sponsored by Amazon. So we're very excited to be doing that there. And then on June 27th, we're going to be hosting a domestic water education webinar. This education webinar should be eligible for participants should be eligible for continuing education credits for LEED certifications through the USGBC. So if you are looking to get some continuing education credits and want to learn how you can make your water heating and cooling more efficient to comply with state and local building performance standards, come on to that event as well. We should have more, including a space heating and cooling education event coming up in July as well. So with that, I think, is the domestic hot water, isn't that July now? Yeah, it might actually, that's actually July 30th. I'm just gonna put a quick correction. It should say July 30th for the domestic water education event. All right. And now I hope you will join me in welcoming Brittany Hahn from PSE. Brittany is here to talk about PSE's business demand response program, which she's going to do a really great job selling. But before she does, I just want to say this is one of those really cool utility programs that's going to help us not only reduce energy usage, but also to make sure that the energy that we are using continues to be clean and green. So Brittany, I'm gonna let you take it away and hand over control of the slides to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Daniel, and thanks to the 2030 team for inviting me here to speak with you all today. I'm going to talk about one of our newest energy efficiency program offerings, which is business demand response. So here's just a quick agenda of what I'm going to walk through. Talk a little bit about why is PSE pursuing this? What does it mean when we talk about flexibility? Maybe demand response is a new term to you. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, what it is, give a little 101. A couple of the programs that PSE is offering and has designed. It's a fairly new offering we launched last fall. So we're still kind of in our learning and growing stages. But it will be an offering that continues for years to come, as it really is the future of where we're going. Talk a little bit about next steps if you're interested, and then also give a shout out to some of our current participants and show you that it's really for everyone. You'll see a wide variety of folks who have participated to date, and then leave some time for questions and answers if you have them. So as Daniel said, my name is Brittany Pond. I am the product development manager on our customer energy management team focused on commercial and industrial load flexibility. It's a big mouthful. But really what that means is I'm charged with designing programs that meet our commercial industrial customer needs and PSE's needs as we move forward into our clean energy transition. So flexibility is not always something that we've really talked about. When we've talked about energy historically, we've talked about energy efficiency, reductions, right? And reductions that reduce over the entirety of your building and facility use. But we're now shifting into an additional layer. It's not so much how much energy you use, it's really when you use that energy. As we start to bring more renewables online, those renewables are generating midday, right? Which is not when we use most of our energy, right? So it's starting to find this balancing of the how and the when and the how much. So there's a lot of value to be had in flexibility. When we look at demand response, we have these kind of key cornerstones here. Oh, we disappeared for a second. You're good. We have these key cornerstones. One, it's earning revenue for your facilities and your sites. I think that's what's most important to businesses at this time, right? Is how do I participate and how do I earn some revenue? For some folks, it's opening a new revenue stream. So it's earning revenue that you might use towards other capital projects that you might not have budgeted for this year. So there's opportunities that exist there. It's supporting the community as a whole, reducing and lowering grid stress. There's building resiliency into our communities. There's also this idea that as we look to the future, there are potentials for risk. We don't have a lot of the brownouts or the blackouts that exist in other areas of the country, and we're very lucky in that respect. But what if, right? And so as we start to plan for the future, we want to mitigate those risks. So why now? Demand response is something that's been around for decades on the East Coast, international, in the Southeast areas where they've had kind of a lot of these intersections, and we just haven't had that yet. But right now, PSE is undergoing, the largest significant transformation in our history, in our nation's history, when it comes to how we use energy and when we use it. So we really envision this pathway where, as we're progressing from a consumer one direction relationship, right? We supply you with energy, you use it how you want. We're entering this bi-directional relationship, this partnership, where we're really talking about maybe you generate some energy on your rooftop solar, and we're going to pay you for that because you're selling it back to us, but you're going to use some too. So these partnerships become more complex, and we really need to work together with defining what the grid of the future looks like. So one of the programs that's going to do that, we believe, is the business demand response. It's going to support our goals to get to net zero, but it's also going to attribute to your, lower emissions and carbon goals too. So flexibility programs are really cost effective. This graph got a little changed, but there used to be some more sharper peaks and valleys in here. But they're really cost effective as an alternative to infrastructure investments. So what that means is 1% of the time, our demand as a percent of our capacity exceeds that 90% threshold, right? So 1% of all the days of the year, we're getting to that threshold. It's a lot cheaper if we can work with customers to reduce that 1% of the time and pay them for their reductions than it is to invest in heavy infrastructure investments to support that 1% of the time. So it's kind of traditionally, we've always said, we invest in energy efficiency in order to, not have to produce as much. It's a similar pathway, but we're not talking about baselines. We're talking about specific timing of events. Okay, go to the next one here. So demand response is fairly simple. We ask you to reduce your usage several times a year when we call what we're going to term events. And really, that's just when, we're looking at our demand forecast and we're saying, hey, we need a little bit of help here from customers. The number one benefit to commercial customers and residential is earning some revenue, right? Generating some additional income. But there's also good feelings around supporting the grid, right? If we can all shave a little, we don't have to turn on natural gas peaker plants, right? That helps us collectively against our carbon emission goals. We don't have to go buy power on the day ahead market, which is extremely expensive. We can keep rates low and cost effective for everyone. So it's really this collectively as a whole, we can get to this point. And it's also about working in relationships together, right? The more we understand how businesses are operating and what their needs are, the more we can design programs that meet those needs as well as PSEs. So this chart here is just an example to show how a customer might participate in demand response. The green boxes are the events that were called. They're typically between 2 and 4 hours, leaning more to the 2-hour side. And then the teal is how the customer performed, and the orange is kind of where they planned to get to, right? Their target energy reduction. So the gray, the dark gray is kind of what the customer's, usual usage is. And then we can see that they were able to achieve, on some days they overachieved their target, on some days they were under. And we look at it across, averages. Days are going to be different no matter what you're doing. So demand response 101, balancing supply and demand on the grid is extremely complex, right? Like we have experts who do it, but it's not always going to be perfect. And that's that 1% of the time that we're talking about. So this chart shows, in the teal, the electricity demand, in the green, it's available supply. PSE forecasts month ahead, day ahead, week ahead. When we look at our week ahead forecast and we start to see that our demand is going to exceed the supply that we've pre-purchased for that day, we call that a grid disruption, right? There's an imbalance there and we've got to figure out how to balance that. Historically, we've activated natural gas peakers. Historically, we've bought power on the spot market, which is more expensive. But what can we do now that's carbon neutral, right, or free, to help us with that grid disruption? And that's where building this demand response network is our goal. This network is not just commercial sites. You as an individual contributor can, as a PSE customer, be part of the solution as well. Maybe you have a smart thermostat at home. Maybe you have an EV. Allow us to stop charging your EV for 2 hours, right? Allow us to turn your thermostat back by 2 degrees. Or maybe you don't have a smart device, but you still want to participate. We'll tell you when an event's coming and you go around and turn off all your lights, right? There's small ways that collectively as a whole, we can get to meet that gap and avoid some of those carbon intensive energy sources. Perfect. So for the commercial customers, how a dispatch works. This is an example of a customer participating. We have typically a 2-hour notification window. So 2 hours prior to the event, we send you a notification that says, hey, an event is coming at 2 o'clock today. Make sure you're ready. We help you generate a plan to what your facility can and can't do, right? So you're not in this alone. There's not a prescribed plan. We're not telling you how much we want you to reduce. We're walking through your system with you to figure that out. And then when the event starts, you respond, you reduce your usage. You can see in this case, the customer peaked and valleyed throughout the 2.5-hour event, but on average, they met their reduction target area. And then when the event is over, you just restore. So what we evaluate customers on is the difference between that orange baseline and what they actually use during that time. So the orange is your estimated, this is what I would have used had that event not been called. And then what you were able to achieve is the difference between the two. Cool. So program opportunities, we've really been intentional here in trying to find ways that every commercial customer can participate in a demand response program. We're not there yet. We have 2 program offerings and we're continuing to grow and develop them. So I'm going to walk through the 2 that we have live today. But if as you're going down this pathway, you think of something, you're like, wow, I'm developing a 300-unit multifamily complex. How does that work in commercial versus residential? We're working on that. We've got a plan, be our partner in this and help us design, where these pathways go. So we partner with a company called Enel, also formerly known as NLX. They are an international leader in demand response. They're kind of the largest company I think no one's ever heard of, because they operate silently in the background. But what they succeed at is helping utilities design programs, but also helping customers figure out their exact optimization needs and how they can create their reduction plans for when a demand response event is called. They've participated with almost every sector you can imagine. So they've got, historical knowledge over how a plastics producer is going to reduce, or how, a food and cold chain is going to reduce. So there's a lot of opportunities here, and it's really unique to your business needs. We work with you and our vendor partner to walk through that process so that you can participate in the way that works for you. So again, these are some examples of strategies that folks use when they're talking about reducing during a demand response event. You can see it varies widely. Any type of operational asset can be used. The best are controls, right? Because you can set a script to run and then you're done. But we do have customers who are running pumps and they're going around and turning them off when this event starts. So it really depends on what your operations have. And again, this is where we work with our vendor and you and your operations team to really kind of leverage what your capabilities are. I've had some folks who are in the new construction phase ask me, what can I do to design my buildings to participate in the future? And the number one thing I tell them is controls, right? Create a control system that operates across your entire building and has endpoints that you have accessibility to centralized. That's the number one thing you can do when you want to think about that, because it takes out that human element. So we currently have 2 programs. I've been talking a lot about what we call our peak demand program. This is really the largest program that we have. It's the most participants, the highest revenue earner. And so I'll just walk through a couple high level pieces of it and talk about the money, because I think that's always pretty important to understand. The program runs on what we call seasons, because demand response is very weather dependent. It's temperature, right? High hot summers, like low cold winters, drive events. We evaluate it seasonally as well. So we pay twice a year. The payment rates listed here are annual, but we do pay at the end of each season. We are currently only running weekday programs for commercial customers. On the residential side, we do run on the weekend, but we don't quite fully understand the commercial operations on the weekend yet. So we are trying to kind of, start small and then learn as we grow. We do require tests for the program. We want to make sure that when you make a commitment of your reduction, you can achieve that. It's beneficial for us and for you. We don't want to underpay you, and we don't want to expect more than you're capable of. So we do have program testing. And then as far as dispatch and timing, like I said, 2 hours notification prior to an event is pretty average. In the summer, we expect events in the afternoon, and in the winter, we expect them in the early morning. But we were actually surprised last winter. Our demand was pretty high in the afternoon and evening. So we did run winter events in the evening, which I think kind of surprised us all. So we're still learning as we understand what load is looking like in our communities with climate change and everything moving forward. The frequency of events. This program, out of our entire load flexibility portfolio, is the least executed. We understand that it impacts business operations, and so we really commit to only calling commercial customers when we need them. For example, the residential program has a maximum of 15 events that we call. For commercial, the maximum is 8, and even then we try to limit it to 4 or 5, really only calling commercial customers when we absolutely need them to contribute to that grid stability. For payment rate, we have what we call our base rate, which again, looking at it seasonally, is $25 per kilowatt. We also then have a bonus. So the most important thing to PSE is that ability to meet supply and demand at exactly 0, right? We don't want to have overage or unders or anything like that. So the bonus is activated when you consistently participate at 80% or higher of your commitment. So again, if you commit to 500 kilowatts, and each event you're averaging your participation at 95, 99%, you're going to achieve that additional bonus. So that's really there to help us kind of show folks that our point is to balance perfectly. And so we really want to get to that. We have some customers who overproduced, right? In the first couple events, they were like, wow, I did way more. We upped their nomination for the next month so that their average increased so that they could earn even more. So we have flexibility with how we do this. So the math to figure out payment is just, what was your nomination value that you committed to, your target reduction? So if a customer offers to reduce 500 kilowatts, which I know kilowatts isn't the world that everyone else works in, but I'll use an example. Cold food storage, who typically operates at 750 kilowatts in the winter, turns everything off, right? Doesn't matter. They go down to 100 kilowatts because it's cold outside, right? And they need to keep their temperatures cold. So it's really easy to participate. In the summer, they're going to change the nomination to less, right? Because the temperature's in the flip side for them. They can't turn down their chillers as much. And so, for them, that was a nomination drop of 500 kW. So 500 kW nomination, they consistently achieved that. They earned the bonus. They earned for winter $17,500 for this program. That's just in the winter. The summer, if they had the same thing, they'd earn another $17,500. So that's $35,000 in 1 year they could earn. That's pretty substantial for larger operations. Our other program offering is our emergency program. So I like to always say that we don't plan to have any dispatch events for this, but we're ready when we need it. So this program is a little bit different. We do require 1 test per season because we don't plan to run any events, but that test is also how you earn revenue. So if you show up for the test event, you get paid as if it were a real event. The payment is similar. It's the same base level. And then we have a slightly smaller bonus just because we're not going to be doing it as frequently. The program for here is a 1-hour notification because, again, it's an emergency. We don't plan to have them. So we're not going to have this day ahead ability to tell you what's going on. But the dispatch frequency is less, right? Minimum 2 times a year, 1 test in each season. And then if we ever call an emergency, we indicate emergencies at what's known as EEA level 2, which is kind of like a description of how much supply you have left in your reserves. Prior to this year, PSC had never experienced an EEA level 2 event in the last 5 years. Martin Luther King Jr. weekend, we did enter an EEA level 2. So you might have remembered some big call outs to everybody, like, please conserve power. This program wouldn't have been called because that was a weekday or a weekend and a holiday, but we never know when emergencies are going to happen. And the best thing you can do is stack the programs, right? Like, you can participate in both. They're not going to get called at the same time. They have different use cases. So the majority of our customers are participating in both programs. And by layering it, they actually earn double. So the cold storage customer that I used as an example, in their peak demand, they earned $35,000 for the year. And now in their emergency, they can earn $30,000 in the year. So together, that's $65,000 for participating. And that's, I don't know what they're going to do with that new revenue stream, but they'll figure it out, I'm sure. Great. So next steps, our partner Enel has a pre-built data analysis tool. Step 1 is really to look at your historical usage to talk about what the business case for DR is. Step 2 is to meet with your key stakeholders to talk about how your operations actually work. What's the technical feasibility for this? And then to make the business case go, no go. We've had some customers who they just can't make it play. It doesn't work for them, and that's okay. We're still in the conversation and we're coming back to the table and saying, hey, what would make it work? Maybe we can help you with some HVAC controls upgrades because you don't have enough staff to walk around and turn down your thermostats. What would it be? And it keeps the conversation going. And then this is a wide list of our current participants. Not all of them on here participated in the winter. About half did, but some are getting ready for summer. So you can see that we're working within retail, we're working within cold storage, food processing, large industries, education, oil and gas. Like, there's a wide variety of options to participate in DR. Well, again, thank you for having me here today. I'm really excited to present this opportunity. Here's my information. I'll drop it in the chat as well. But please reach out if you have any questions or you're interested in participating. I'm happy to kind of help start the conversations and see what we're capable of partnering to do.
Great. Thank you so much, Brittany, for being here and for talking about the demand response program. This is something that we are hoping to see also develop in Seattle at some point, but PSC is out ahead of it. And it's a really
I know they're working on it. We've had some conversations.
They're working on it. But in the meantime, PSC is providing this really incredible opportunity for property owners to actually, take advantage of some of these building controls and start turning your facilities teams into income generating staff members. So very excited about that. Thank you for sharing. If anyone has any follow-up, please let us know. All right, now we're going into some additional resources, and we're joined today by our friends from the City of Bellevue's sustainability team to talk a little bit about the Clean Building Incentive Program. This is a program a lot of you are probably familiar with, but it's a really great and unique way that the City of Bellevue is addressing compliance with the Clean Buildings Law out of the state. So I'm going to turn it over to Pat.
Okay, yeah. Sorry. Thank you, Daniel. Yeah, and good to be with everybody. We appreciate having an opportunity to highlight a little bit of Bellevue's work in this space at the tail end of the meeting here. So also, sorry I was late. I'm running a little behind from a webinar I was running till the noon hour. So before I jump into the details, I'm Pat Babbitt. I am the Climate and Energy Program Manager for the City of Bellevue. One of my responsibilities involves helping existing buildings improve operations and make upgrades to comply with state reporting and performance requirements through our Clean Buildings Incentive Program. But not just that program, we'll talk about a little bit more. So I'm also here with my colleagues, Colin Munson, who works on all things e-mobility and sustainable transportation. He'll handle a slide in a moment, and also Jennifer Ewing, Bellevue's sustainability manager. So we're excited to be here and be a sponsor of 2030 District this year. And I'll just say that your network, all of you, are an important partner group for advancing sustainable building knowledge and practices across Bellevue, Seattle, and the wider region. And this network's purpose really overlaps with that of our Clean Buildings Incentive Program, which focuses on providing technical assistance for building owners and operators to comply with state reporting and performance requirements, known as the Clean Buildings Law and the Clean Buildings Performance Standards. So that's sort of the purpose of the program. We run it through a contractor, McDonald Miller Facility Solutions. And in terms of the support we provide, the services, this includes helping building operators get their building's energy use benchmarked, getting that information from their utility and onto Energy Star Portfolio Manager, taking a look at the results from that energy use data and doing a walkthrough of their systems and their facilities and understanding, at least at a high level, scoping out potential upgrades, whether it's equipment or infrastructure or operations improvements. And then from those initial 2 steps in service areas, navigating incentives that are out there through your local utilities, through the state and through federal tax incentives or grants, for example. Beyond that, though, we help with compliance with commerce. So understanding the documents, understanding the requirements, getting those documents completed, and then participating in the processes that commerce has laid out, like through the Clean Buildings portal, to ultimately comply if your building or buildings are covered by the state law. So that's a little bit on what our services look like. We wanted to flag here a couple of our upcoming webinars through the next couple of months this summertime, and I'll put links in the chat when I'm done speaking. So wanted to highlight that, and certainly there's a lot going on as well from commerce and other partners in this space. So I'd be happy to highlight those opportunities as well. There's really not a shortage of opportunities to learn more about the law, what may be required of your buildings, and how to work toward compliance and make improvements to be a more high-performing, more sustainable building. Next slide, please. I do like to share this slide as well, though, besides sort of teeing up what our program is doing. I do like to acknowledge, beyond this partner group, the City of Bellevue working with 2030 District and working through our ESCO, Mac Miller, we're one partner group and service provider trying to address difficult and complex problems, right? Upgrading our buildings to meet requirements. And so I do want to sort of flag that we can move from challenges to opportunities with this stronger patchwork of organizations and services working in this space. So you can see on screen, not just the local clean buildings programs, but also accelerators run by City of Seattle and Puget Sound Energy. There's really a number of paths forward, and there's other orgs working on everything from technical support, trainings, incentives, navigating finance options, offering software tools or physical tools like the Smart Building Center tool library for commercial buildings, and also various organizations offering help with completing documentation and compliance processes. So we're not the only partner here if you are a building owner and operator, and we're happy to be a connector as well as a service provider. So that's really it for me. I'll just invite you to get into contact. I'll throw my information in the chat as well. And I definitely encourage you to be an active member in your network. You know, we really need to reach other owners and operators of buildings in Bellevue through you. And so we hope that you'll be an active teammate there. And we'd like to help you however we can. So that's it for me. I'll pass it off to Colin, who's going to speak a little bit to our work on EVs.
Thanks, Pat. This is really, really quick. Something that we initially shopped around in January and sort of coming back to is looking at the city building code with respect to the amount of EV charging required in new buildings, particularly for multifamily residential buildings. Understanding the EV transition is happening and Bellevue is really advanced in that currently. So the idea is basically, there's a current state requirements linked there in that WAC, and as a city we are exploring going above and beyond those, again, particularly for multifamily residential. We have formal like engagements on around a proposal that we'll be developing or are developing or putting the finishing touches on, I should say, with the Plush Committee, which is run through the Chamber of Commerce, as well as the Bellevue Development Committee a little bit later this summer. Ultimately, this would go to City Council in the fall, sometime in September, October. And I'm here to just A, let you know this is happening, or we're taking a look at it. And then B, if you're someone or work for a group that is interested in building decarbonization, which I imagine a lot of you are, or think you'd have opinions or want to know more or provide feedback or input on this, you have my email. I'll put in the chat. Let me know. We're also sort of outside the Plush and the BDC looking at work with like stakeholders and more intimate settings to get feedback on this. So reach out, happy to talk about it, and we want your feedback, we want your ideas, and that also extends, I think, to our friends at the 2030 district as well. Obviously, this is very much part of your work too. That's all I have.
Great. And with that, we are going to just open it up for a conversation, but let me just first start by thanking Brittany Pond for being here from Puget Sound Energy and talking about the demand response program. Pat Babbitt here talking about the Clean Building Incentive Program, and Colin talking about the EV charging. These are all fantastic resources that we're going to be continuing to push towards our member properties and the folks that we are connected with in Bellevue, but we hope that the rest of the folks on this call will also become evangelists for these programs too, because they're really great and a fantastic way for us all to get our buildings to be more sustainable and part of a system that is able to reduce our carbon emissions across both the city and the region. Also, because I saw that Linda joined us a little later, I wanted to just make sure that everyone knew, again, the Bellevue Summer Social is going to be on June 26th. So mark your calendars if you haven't already. We're going to be really excited to be hosting that to the Spring District. And if you'd like to take the light rail there, you can do that now. So please, get yourself commute responsibly as you start to think about how to get around Bellevue. But again, very excited to see you all. We can look for our next member meeting in Q3 as we get into Q3, and we'll be joined again by the city of Bellevue and more of our partners as we move forward. So with that, that's all we have. But if you'd like to stick around and chat, we're going to stop the recording and hang out for the next 10 minutes or so. Feel free to join us or to carry on with your day.